What's good, everybody? We have some good-ass cards coming up, alright? I'm recording this before the Abu Dhabi card, which has guys like John Pork, Islam Dulatov. The week after that, we got the Serbia UFC event. We got your Uros Medic, the Polish GOAT, Mateusz Rębecki, opening up the card. You know how it is. Shout out to that Polish girl that left to Poland with a little piece of my heart. But yeah, man, these 2 weeks are going to be really good for European fans. I'm finally going to be able to watch this goddamn sport at a reasonable hour, right? Instead of 6 in the morning. I was watching main events 6 in the morning, falling asleep on my couch. But hey, man, that's not what we're here to talk about. All right, August 16th, prime unemployment time. We have UFC 330, Ian Machado Garry challenging Islam Makhachev. And even if the rest of the card is absolute dog shit, right? Absolute dog water. That's a topic for another day. This main event is elite, and I think it might be one of the most, if not the most important main events for UFC discourse this year. All right, we got Russian versus Ireland 2. Islam on the 16-fight winning streak, right? He's tied with Anderson Silva. There's a lot of narratives we're going to go into in a little bit. Lots of fans already consider Islam Makhachev the GOAT. But if he beats this challenger who has, 2 wins over 2 top 10 guys in Carlos Prates and Belal Muhammad, I'm here to make the case that low-key that shit might be undeniable, bro. Makhachev might be GOAT status and there's nothing anyone could say about it, all right? We're going to talk about Islam later. To appoint a new GOAT, we first need to go and check out the competition. Who is he up against? So let's start off with GSP. George St. Pierre, one of my GOATs. Personally, as a fan, one of my favorite fighters to watch back in the day if we watch that old tape. And honestly, I think if you don't have Islam as the GOAT of the sport, it has to be GSP. If you have any morals, if you have a heart, right? This guy got 0 doping allegations. I'm sure you guys know why I mentioned that. We're going to talk about that in a second. He only has 2 losses in his career, both of which he avenged. And 2 of those losses, right, or 2 of those wins were against Matt Hughes. First, he knocked him out, and then he armbarred him, the same submission he lost in their first fight. Amazing, right? He's got great wins over BJ Penn, Josh Koscheck, Dan Hardy, Jake Shields, Carlos Condit, Nick Diaz. These are all good names, even if they're a little unkish, Bisping being the most recent one. I think they fought in 2017, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, like I said, he became a double champ against Michael Bisping. Skill-wise, probably one of the best fighters of all time. Most well-rounded, right? He's one of these super rare breed of fighters that became, he was a striker, he was a karate guy who developed a really strong and elite wrestling and jiu-jitsu game. Very impressive from GSP. Now, what is the bad side of GSP? Because we're talking about the good and the bad. The bad to GSP, it's a little bit hard to find, right? Not much to talk about, honestly. But for me, the biggest issue is that he was facing straight plumbers for most of his career. And that's something that it's unfortunate. It's like Mighty Mouse in his flyweight era. He was fighting cans, but he was fighting with the UFC put in front of him. So honestly, I can't be too mad. But their combined record, the combined record of the people that fought GSP was 700, more or less, 290 losses. All right, 700, 290 losses. For perspective, the combined record of opponents of Stipe Miocic was 381 to 89. If you look at the real elite fighters, the people we consider top 10, top 5, top 3, I'm not saying GSP is not top 5, right? I think he's top 3. I think he's in number 2 spot. But if we do take into account that was those razor-thin conversations, GSP versus Islam, GSP versus John Jones, if you're an idiot and you consider John Jones, right? If we take into account those conversations, we have to take into account the record of the fighters. So that's why I bring up Stipe, right? It's not the worst thing in the world. He fought everyone that the UFC, made him fight. But what comes close to separating you from the top, from the la creme of the creme, right? The only other issue is that he low-key robbed Hendricks. I mean, you could give that fight to GSP, based on the traditional scoring system. He won 3 rounds, even if they were very razor close rounds. You could give him those 3. And the other 2 rounds, he was getting his ass beat. They were borderline 10-8s. And you could tell that he also thought he low-key lost because of the way he retired and he called it a career afterward. But that's it. This is all the things I have wrong with GSP. Like I said, he's my GOAT if it's not for Islam Makhachev. Now let's talk about this motherfucker, John Bones Jones. Now it's gonna hurt my soul to have to talk about this man in a good way for even a little bit of the video, but I'll try my best, right? If you guys don't know, I hate John Jones on this channel. John Jones is one of, if not the highest IQ fighters that has ever stepped foot in the octagon, right? Super composed. He always seems to make the right move every time, the right decision. His resume is strong as hell, right? He has insane names, which is kind of what matters at the end of the day. He's fought Mauricio Hua, Rampage, Machida, Rashad, Gustafsson, Glover, he fought DC twice. These are crazy names. Dominic Reyes, Stipe for the double champ, and then, no, Stipe for a double champ defense, and then he became a double champ against Cyril Gahn, who just recently beat Alex Pereira, so that win's aging very well for him. He's only lost once by technicality. You look at this resume, you think, oh, there's not that much you could slander. Even Mr. Artorias, who hates fucking John Jones with all of his heart, there's not that much you can slander, right? No, you're fucking wrong, bruh. I fucking hate John Jones. This is the part that really matters when it comes to the John Jones GOAT conversation. Even though I only talked about him good for like 2 minutes, or like a minute, it hurt my soul, and now I get to talk about how much I hate this man, bruh. The main issue, like all my hatred aside, the main issue with John Jones is the PED usage, without a doubt. Without a doubt, you're in a combat sport. This isn't tennis, right? This isn't the Tour de France. You're not competing with people and you pose no like life-threatening issues to them. You don't pose a danger to the people you're competing with in those sports. Here, you are hitting each other. You are trying to actively submit, TKO, KO, walk-off decision if you're Belal Muhammad. Like, you're actively trying to hurt the other person. You cannot have any performance-enhancing drugs in your system. You could actually just kill him, bro. Michael Bisping got his retina detached by fucking Belfort. That was juiced out of his mind. Insane, right? That's my main issue with Jones. And spoiler alert for my GOAT list, the one I'm going to make in the future, I don't even have Jones as an honorable mention, bro. Because if you do PEDs, and just how obvious his PED usage was in the UFC, I can't do that. In good faith, I can't include you in one of those lists. There's been fighters that have been rumored or even busted for PEDs in the past. Anderson Silva, whoever, I don't know, Israel Adesanya had gynecomastia. Like, there's a lot of things that have been a little bit shady. And my ex-MMA coach, who's a retired MMA fighter, he told me that everyone, like the training camps he was in, Fabricio Verdum training camps, he was in, all these, he's a Brazilian, right? So he was all in all of these Brazilian training camps. He said all of them were doing PEDs. So if you don't, it's basically like being at disadvantage. But I don't want to think like that, because if we start thinking like that, then nothing matters. Because any win, you could see like, oh, he's probably on PEDs. Any loss, you could be like, oh yeah, the other guy was probably on PED. Like, we cannot afford to think like that. So I'm going to stick by USADA. Or I don't know what the drug testing company is now. But I'm going to stick by USADA, any drug testing company in the UFC. And I'm just going to assume that what they give us, the negative, positive test results, that is true. Alright? Another thing that, in my opinion, is fucked about Jones' resume is that he genuinely lost to Reyes, bruh. Like, it's not even like, oh, close decision, Sean O'Malley, Piotr Jan, you could give it one way or another, whatever. Dominic Reyes clearly won the first 3. And John Jones clearly won the last 2. There was no swing round. There was no, Strickland versus Chimaev 5th round. I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of examples, but there was no swing round. There were no 10-8s. Like, there's no excuse that you can make for the John Jones loss. It was just a fucked judging. And to me, that counts as a loss, right? I guess it's not up to whoever, if you think something's a robbery, then you could just disqualify the fighter for whatever. But watch that fight, guys. Everyone says it for a reason. I'm not going to let anyone forget it. We cannot just let this fade into the annals of history as a win for John Jones, because that shit was a robbery, all right? First Gustafsson fight, some people say that was a robbery. I think that's an example of a close decision, right? That's a fight where there's swing rounds. You can go either way. Not the Dominic Reyes one, all right? And the last issue for me with John Jones, the fact that, he can't be the GOAT, is that he did not fight the people that the UFC put in front of him for like 4 years. No, what was it, like 2 years? When he retired after losing to Dominic Reyes, right, from light heavyweight, he was supposed to go up to heavyweight, but just blatantly waited out Ngannou. The moment Ngannou leaves, vacates, whatever, goes up and fights Cyril Gahn for an interim. Are we dead ass, bro? Like, you just blatantly avoided the best heavyweight in the world so you get an easier matchup. A better stylistic matchup against a fucking big-ass Frenchman that doesn't know how to wrestle. Okay? And John Jones, after he became the champ with Cyril Gahn, doesn't do fuck all for a year. Tom Aspinall saves events on short notice, gets that interim fight against Sergey Pavlovich, knocks him out, defends his interim belt. Defends the interim belt, bro. Against, what was his name? Razor Blades, right? Curtis Razor, whatever his name is. And then this whole time you're making him wait. I'm gonna fight him. I'm not gonna fight him. And this isn't that. They had a meet up, and he didn't want to face off with him. And this, I don't want to let Jones fight me. I don't want to fight Aspinall because he's not a nice guy. Like, this guy's genuinely hit pregnant women with his car talking about, I don't want to fight this guy because he's not nice, because he's a dick, or whatever he said. You held up Tom Aspinall's career for like 2 years. You deserve the worst, bro. Because Tom Aspinall, I say this every video, it feels like, has the potential, and I feel will be and will go down in history as the best heavyweight of all time. Most well-rounded, most powerful, fastest, everything, bro. Best resume. But if it's like fuckers like you, fuckers like Cyril Gahn, that's just never going to happen. Because we just keep stalling out Tom Aspinall's career, alright? I'm going to stop before I start. You guys can hear it in my voice, getting my blood rate, getting my blood pressure up. But yeah, man, this motherfucker will never be the GOAT, will never be my GOAT. Alright, so let's get on to the good stuff. Islam Makhachev, my boy. Now, I like Islam. Maybe I've made some videos in the past. People think I don't like him. I fuck with Islam. I think he's funny. I don't agree with some of the stuff, he talks about morally, some of the stuff in his religion maybe. But I fuck with this guy as a fighter, as a personality. He's great. And I love his fighting style. This guy's super entertaining no matter what the people that call the Dagestanis nut huggers, whatever they might say, this guy's entertaining, all right? As his career stands right now, he could be considered the GOAT easily, right? 28-1 record, only loss being super early. He got careless against supersized Pantoja. And then he's currently tied with Anderson Silva for 16 wins, right? In the modern era. Anderson Silva did that shit against plumbers. We were talking about GSP fighting plumbers. Anderson Silva was fighting plumber premium, like beta testing plumbers. Like, this guy was fighting homeless people off the street, it feels like. Like, based on these records, some people were generally like 18-10 fighting this dude for a world championship. So it was just insane. Islam Makhachev has matched that record and is looking to break it in the modern era. Like, he's actually doing some crazy shit. On top of that, this guy might actually be one of, if not the most well-rounded fighters of all time. His competition are Topuria, right? He lost a little bit of stock after that Justin Gaethje fight. GSP, Jones, and Mighty Mouse. That's the conversations we have Islam Makhachev in. This guy has elite wrestling. One of the best submission games in the UFC right now. Up there with Hamza Chimaev, up there with Charles Oliveira. And his striking, maybe it's not up to par with John Jones or Topuria or GSP, but he's super competent. He knows how to use his range. He knows what weapons to use. He has a really good IQ in that realm when he's on the feet, when he's fighting shorter guys. He knows to throw up the head kick against Volk, AI footage. He knows what to do with himself, with his striking. You saw Khabib in his prime fighting whoever, bro. Fighting Gleison Tibau, fighting fucking Conor McGregor. The striking wasn't there. Yes, he landed an overhand on Conor McGregor, but that's with the threat of the takedown. Islam Makhachev uses his striking on the feet and his striking in combination with his takedowns to just make himself super effective, right? He's not one of the best strikers, but he is one of the best strikers. He's not like the top 1%, but he's super competent and he uses it in perfect tandem with his wrestling. Now, it all comes down to the resume. Islam Makhachev, I split his resume into two parts. We have the resume pre-title and the resume post-title. Of course, his pre-title isn't going to look like nearly as close to his post-title, but these wins are really good, right? Since he beat Dan Hooker went on to fight. He was ranked. He fought Dustin Poirier. He fought Mateusz Gamrot. He fought Arman Tsarukyan. He's fought all these guys. He went on to get more wins. This guy didn't just fall off a cliff and retire after he lost to Islam Makhachev. Drew Dober still getting wins. Bobby Green, King Green, he just got a win 2 weekends ago over Terrence McKinney. Looked great in that performance. 41 years old, still winning. I think he's on a 3-fight win streak now. And of course, Arman Tsarukyan, they were both very young at that time, but it was a dominant decision win from Islam Makhachev. I think it was 28-27, something like that, if I remember correctly. And that win is obviously aged amazingly. The only person Arman Tsarukyan has lost to in that time has been a controversial decision to Mateusz Gamrot. But we all can get Mateusz Gamrot could split decision John Jones in the right context. So I don't hold that too much against Arman Tsarukyan. So again, great resume pre-title, not the most stacked in the world, right? But post-title is what really matters. This guy's resume after he got the title and during his title was amazing. He goes up after beating the guys I just mentioned, submits Charles Oliveira after dropping him, right? Submits him quick. I've never seen Charles or anyone tap that quickly. That pressure must have been insane. Doesn't even dismount to hit the arm triangle. Let me talk about this for a second, all right? I love when I'm on bottom getting arm triangled. I love when motherfuckers go and dismount to hit that arm triangle. I love that shit because I literally just go, give my back and turtle, and just avoid getting the hooks put in, and there's no more submission. And now your arms are tired. So guys, if you're strong enough to finish the arm triangle, right? If you're strong enough to finish the arm triangle after, you know, you dismount and the person tries to roll off and you don't let them roll off, just stay in the mount, bro. Stay in the mount and do the arm triangle for there, because if you're strong enough to keep them from going into turtle, you're strong enough to finish it from there. And that position is suffocating. You can't get your hips out. Literally no defense. Motherfuckers trying to push on their arm to create space. Like, you gotta be dumb as hell. You're not doing nothing with that. Alright? Anyway, submits Charles Oliveira. Amazing win. Charles Oliveira, you know, he challenged for the title against Ilia Topuria. He went out, he got that Gamrot win. He almost beat Arman Tsarukyan, UFC 300. He went out and beat Max Holloway. He's probably going to be fighting Justin Gaethje next. He then has 2 wins over Volkanovski. The first, very impressive. A clear, like, it was a close, but it was a clear decision towards Makhachev. I believe it was a 48-47, something like that. I don't know if you could give 3, if you give 3 or 4 rounds to Islam. That's a bit contentious. But yeah, man, it was a close decision, still a decision win. And then Volkanovski obviously comes in, the biggest AI showing of all time, on short notice, low-key fat, 11 days notice, gets knocked out, whatever. 2 wins over the featherweight GOAT, first of all, and the top 10, top 5, arguably, fighter of all time. These are his best wins by far. Then goes out, submits Dustin Poirier in a war, right? A war that he was winning by decision, regardless of how cut up he looked on the face. That was a great elbow that Dustin Poirier landed. And submits DP in the 5th round, I believe, with a great Darce choke. Looks amazing. I think second or third person to submit Dustin Poirier, if I'm not wrong, in his career. Goes out, supposed to fight Arman Tsarukyan, ends up fighting Moicano. Submits a guy that's known for his submissions again. Great win, even if it was on super short notice. And then goes out and dominates over 5 rounds Jack Della Maddalena. One of the biggest snooze fests, right, of the in UFC history. But the way he got that win, and the way, like, how the way Jack was looking, the way the conversations were, this was a closer fight than a lot of people are. People were expecting to be way closer than it actually was in reality. And I liken this to a GSP Michael Bisping win. So I think this is a really good win for Islam Makhachev's resume. This guy has a great resume, and it's still getting better. Moicano's still getting wins, right? He got a win over Benoit Saint-Denis, if I'm not wrong. Dustin Poirier, of course, went on to retire shortly after, but had a great fight with Max Holloway. Volkanovski became the champ at featherweight after losing it to Ilya. You know, defended against Diego Lopez, so he's looking great, looking to defend against Movsar Evloev. Charles Oliveira, like we said, still adding to the resume. This is a resume that continues to get better and will get better until every one of these fighters retire, because these are elite fighters. All right, so let's get on to the topic of this video, which is just the last. Don't worry, guys. This is the last thing I talk about. Islam versus Garry. How does this change? How does this affect LeBron's legacy? Right? Islam Makhachev versus Ian Garry. If he beats Ian Garry at UFC 330, right, 330, he will have beat a nearly undefeated fighter who's only lost to Shavkat Rakhmonov, my GOAT, my Kazakh GOAT. You guys know how much I love my Kazakhs. He'll have beat a fighter that has wins over 2 of the top 10 welterweights actively in Belal Muhammad and CP, right? We love CP. He is actually ranked in the AI rankings as number one contender. So Ian Garry has a win over the number 1 contender right now. So Makhachev would low-key be inheriting that shit, not gonna lie. Islam will have become a defending champion, legitimate defending champion in 2 divisions, not like John Jones' bitch ass, who was just waiting for Stipe to fucking like wither away into dust. Stipe was generally like 40. How old was Stipe? Like 42 when they fought? It was crazy. And he will have beat the Anderson Silva 16 fight streak in the UFC in the modern era, right? No plumbers in sight, man. No electricians on this resume. He'll have beat that record in an era which way harder to beat, in an era where people are training MMA since they're like 13 years old. You see guys like Ilya. You see guys like Ian Garry coming up, young guys, Kevin Vallejos, John Silva, guys that have been training forever, right? Back in the day, some of these motherfuckers were having part-time jobs, and they just came into the UFC because they could low-key throw hands, bro. You look at Mark Hunt, and you tell me this guy was born to be a fighter, bro? Tai Tuivasa? Are we dead ass? Like, please don't chin me, but these guys are in the UFC just because they were in a bar and they probably knocked someone out while they were drunk. And they're like, oh, yeah, you know, I should try to do this for a living, innit? Go into the UFC, heavyweight division, empty as fuck, get ranked somehow. Anyway, enough about the heavyweight division. That's what I think, man. I think if Islam Makhachev beats Ian Garry, he will be the GOAT, undisputed. undeniable. The resume speaks for itself. The wins, the skills, everything, man. So thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think about Islam Makhachev against Ian Garry? Do you guys think Ian Garry has a chance? We are in the year of the upset. We're in the year where a lot of people are getting their picks wrong. You know, Gaethje beating Ilya, making me want to kill myself. Who else? Strickland losing to Strickland beating Hamza. Amazing result for me. Right? I was very happy about that. We had, who else? We had Merab losing to Petr Yan. That was great. But yeah, man, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching again. I'm going to go eat dinner, man. I'm hungry.